so happy to have you join us tonight. On behalf of our board, our president and CEO, Juanita Moore, our staff, we welcome you to our 5th annual engagement with Cinetopia, which has been in existence 7 years. We've been fortunate to have premier Black filmmakers, African American filmmakers showcased during this film festival. I think it's very important given the fact is our brother Ishmael Reed would call it Jim Crow media, that we are able to have and create our own narratives, our own visions. I want to talk about the fact that Ishmael Reed is returning, having been here recently with his new book, The Complete Muhammad Ali, where we honored him. He's one of these rare individuals, multifaceted, a poet, actually part of the Black arts movement, one of the founders of that, a novelist, an essayist, songwriter. I'm really moved by some of his musical pieces of music, a playwright, editor, publisher. Can you imagine? He's a MacArthur genius. Can you please join me in welcoming to the stage Ishmael Reed, who will frame his new production for us, and then we'll watch the film. The film is a 2-part film, so we're going to take a 5-minute break and come back, and then we'll have a discussion if time allows, and if your energy level sustained, to delve a little deeper into this great American treasure, Ishmael Reed.
This film is based upon my early experience with storytelling, which were soap operas, the newspapers, but soap operas mainly. And my aunt used to call these stories her stories. And so, around 1970s, people were calling me about their personal problems. Not calling me about their personal problems, they called me about their resumes. Give me their resumes like I'm hiring somebody. I called my friend and partner, Steve Cannon, in New York, and I said, everybody's telling me about their personal problems. We ought to do a soap opera, or a parody of a soap opera, or what I call a meta soap opera, based on everyday experiences that people have. And so this began a collaboration with a lot of talented people. Who went on to make a great names for themselves. The shooting was done by Robert Polidori, who was unknown at that time, but became a photographer for the New Yorker magazine and was commissioned to do the restoration of the Palace of Versailles. So he's got a lot of props. The composer is Cameron Moore, who was a young person at the time, and he is probably the only composer who had a symphony performed by the New York Philharmonic and the San Francisco Philharmonic a day apart. And he's done music all over the world. Verna Mae Drosner was what you call a culinary anthropologist and has done a book called Vibration of Cooking. She also sang with Sun Ra. At that time, you couldn't have a dark-skinned woman as a leading lady. I think that's changed a little bit, but we broke that rule. And then we had Walter Cotton from Buffalo, New York. I grew up with him in Buffalo. He was too, difficult to pigeonhole as a race category, so he couldn't get a job. Matter of fact, he was in Cotton Comes to Harlem, and they cut out his portion of the film because he looks Puerto Rican, all that. So we hired him, and he hired his family. And you see some of the people in the film. There's daughter, wife, and then we got Jim Wright to connect us with the traditional Black filmmaking. Jim Wright was in one of the last so-called race films, Sins of the Soul, or something other, in the 1940 something, the last of the race films. And so we're in that tradition. The Black actors delineate themselves. I just wrote treatments. They improvise, they define themselves. The only jobs that women get in Hollywood, if they're Black, Hispanic, Asian American, is that of prostitutes. I could point out some films and television shows right now where that's the only jobs they can get. So the people in this film delineated their characters. They made their characters, they created their characters. So We did this for $40,000. We didn't know what we were doing. As I say, the film costs as much as a red carpet gown, okay? This is revolutionary because the film was about 3 hours long. We tried to get it on PBS. A woman there blocked it, and she paid for her sin because she was one of those who did Civil Wars, which is like a remake, you know, Ken Burns' Civil Wars, a remake of Gone with the Wind, you know, Northern aggression business. And so I hope you enjoy this. They say we didn't know what we were doing, but now they're saying it's a classic. It's a major classic. It might be the first black soap opera. And I want to give some props to Jake Pro. Otherwise, this film would have met the same fate as 400 of the 500 so-called race films that were made since 1909. We hit their loss. Only 100 remain. You can see some of them on YouTube. Ironically, some of the so-called race films on YouTube. Most people can only name one black filmmaker, Oscar Micheaux, okay? There were dozens of them. They were all over the country. These people weren't waiting around for Hollywood to act right, going there begging for Oscars. These people there begging for Oscars like they gave one a monsters ball. It's all about this woman who marries her husband, has an affair with her husband's execution. They got an Oscar for that. Or they get an Oscar for Training Day, where, you know, the black guy's the bad cop. So there's life outside of the Hollywood system. And I talked to Robert Polidori, who's still around. I said, use this 3/4 inch equipment. You can get super equipment now that costs maybe $400 a day to rent. It's all over for Hollywood. You no longer have to go there and beg them to act right, like that Disney movie, Black Panthers. Don't throw stones. That's a Disney movie. It's marketed all over the place. They even make a hero of a CIA agent. So I mean, it's like a hero. But anyway, I hope you enjoy this movie. I hope it's more interesting than my rant. Thank you.